Great, good morning.
Good morning.
We're delighted to chat with you today about our septic system awareness and action project. Here's our team. Myself, Sarah, Bill, Doreen, and Valerie collaborated on this project, and what I'm going to do is provide you an overview of the problem we wanted to tackle and how we're going to address it, along with the project description, and then kind of a snapshot of the genesis of our materials, and then we're each going to be covering kind of different components of the project itself. So just to kind of address our problem statement, based on our experiences in general and then what we learned here at the Academy, we all had a shared interest in doing a project on septic systems. And we recognize that in Indiana, there's several communities that are served by septic systems, and there's a wide range of understanding and expertise in how to care and maintain those systems. So related to septic system maintenance is how we're caring for it and our understanding of how it functions over time. So septic system owners may not even be aware that they have a system on their property, much less how to operate and care for it. There are a lot of resources available and by various means, but it can be overwhelming to access that information and understand how it applies to your property and your particular system, since there are different kinds of systems in place. So essentially, our project team decided that we would go through some material and create an informational packet that could be used as a model for any community in Indiana, and it could be used for outreach and education purposes for different kinds of groups. Initially, as Jane mentioned, we did have two teams and two different projects in mind. One was kind of promoting and leading up to EPA's Septic Smart Week, which is going to be in September of this year. And another project was just kind of generating some helpful tips for septic system owners. However, so as not to overlap on these projects, we agreed to do some initial brainstorming together, which included first reviewing kind of what's out there, materials that were already specific to Indiana, but also broader materials by EPA and other agencies. So as we held our weekly conference calls, we realized that we would join our forces at our two projects and come up with this final project, which is the packet, as well as a video, an educational PowerPoint, a sheet with tips for organizing a septic outreach program, and you're going to be blown away. Also a song, so wait for it. I'm going to hand it off to Sarah.
Okay, each of your packets now has a folder that has, it's chock full of information. Just an overview, we have 3 letters, 4 information sources, and a plan of action. First, let me emphasize, on the front, anything you can do to customize this to your watershed or your community or your group, anything's better, more power to you. We have a picture here painting, this is from Owen County, at least that's what it said on the internet. So, we tailored this to Owen County, but if you have a natural site near your watershed or your community, use a picture of that. Okay. One statistic used in the packet states that in Indiana, 65% of homes use septic systems. Well, in Owen County, we have 85% septic systems. So that is in the letters. So that just uses it, makes it a little closer to home, makes it a little more relevant to Owen County. Instead of using percentages, another idea would be to list specific neighborhoods. This neighborhood and that neighborhood use septic systems. So before you start your own education campaign, you'll need to do a little bit of your own research. So we included a couple of different letters to get your campaign started. We have a generic letter to community, to your residents, It does say Owen County, a couple of things in here, so you can just, delete Owen County and put your community or your county on there. So what it has in the letter, it says they are informed that septic maintenance is their responsibility, why it's important, and they're encouraged to educate themselves. And then they're encouraged to share the information and even get involved in distributing the information. We also have a community leader letter. Community leaders and elected officials make it their business to know your community and know people in your community so they can have a huge impact on getting this information out. Some of them can do more in a few minutes than you can do in a month. So use those resources, use your community. We have one, this was specific to Owen County. So here's an example with specific Owen County examples. So as far as the information goes, there is lots of information and it can be overwhelming. For your homeowners, we suggest the Septic Smart brochure on the EPA site. It has the basics on there, but it's not completely overwhelming. It's just one little brochure, describes how it works, source for them to get more information. And this is available in Spanish on the website, so that if that's a concern in your community, that is available. We also have the RCAP Drop of Knowledge publication in the packet on your table. This, obviously, a lot more information. Your average homeowner is going to look at this and go, So this might be useful for your community leaders and the group, members of your group that are promoting this septic education. We also have a publication from Purdue on grandfathered septic systems. It has a little bit about the law, and it has the difference between before 1980 septic systems were built based on how many bedrooms, and now it includes soil type and how fast that water is going to be absorbed. We also have our video, unfortunately it's not working today, but we'll talk more about that later, but we do have a copy of the video. Then finally, you need an action plan. So they have all this information. What are they going to do next? So we have this checklist. They have some information that they might fill out, and they might not. They might have to research when their septic system was installed and who did it. But the more important part is maintenance. Maintenance. And then, okay, great. Well, I need to have my septic tank pumped. Great, who cares? Provide them with a list of resources for your local community. And it's a good idea to call them and say, hey, can we put your name on this resource list so that they know they're out there? And I doubt anybody's going to say no because this is free advertising for them. So, but resources, so everything they have in their hands, all they have to do is make a phone call. Okay? And now we're going to hand it over to Doreen.
Thank you. All right, so also in the packet is the Organizing for Septic System Awareness and Action Tips for Organizing sheet. As we gathered the background, we knew that it would be helpful for watershed groups and others looking to do outreach to have some basic tips on how to plan for this often controversial and potentially divisive subject. So we looked online for other programs and used information garnered from our Watershed Academy presentations and our readings to develop these tips for stakeholder involvement. And EPA Septic Smart has a great website with a toolbox and case studies. And one of a particularly good case study was from Owen County, Washington, where they did a whole campaign with surveys and social indicators and community outreach. And so that was a good example of things that worked and didn't work that we got online. So from the background study and the knowledge that we gained, we put together just a brief summary page, 2-page, to indicate some of the things that people should really keep in mind as they're preparing their program. So and of course I lost mine, but basically, here it is, sorry. You want to know your area, your prioritized area, and have a map as you begin to reach out to people to work on the program. You want to know all the authorities that are involved, the overlapping authorities, which can include Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as the Health Department, EPA, the Natural Resource Services Council, even the MS4s, and did I say IDEM, of course. So all these people, if they're in your area, you might want to contact them and let them know what you're planning to do if they're not already involved in your watershed group. You certainly don't want to step on anybody's toes or have a big surprise when you turn up with your information. And as people have indicated, and as I perhaps mentioned, the MS4s are often involved in this as well. Know your partners. Who are you going to be working with on this? You certainly want to know the communities that you're planning to do outreach with, and you need to connect up with their community organizations, homeowners associations, churches, schools, etc. You want to write up a plan, a startup plan for what you're going to do, what the tasks are, who's going to do it, and your timeline. That'll have to be adapted as you go along. You want to prepare the specific outreach materials, as Sarah just went through how we did that and what's going to work for your community. You want to determine your other means. How are you going to get the information out? We're not just expecting that this packet gets dropped on somebody's doorstep and they're going to deal with it. It's really a way of making our introductions to people and telling them what we're going to talk about. Now, if you're really going to talk to your community people, how are you going to do that? So you may want to do neighborhood survey. You may want to go around the neighborhood and provide information to people, like door hangers. I suppose everybody knows you don't put stuff in people's mailboxes because that's against the law. And but there's web resources, email resources. So you could just go down through here, the fact sheets, all the things that you can use as tools to get the information out to people. You can go to fairs, like as people have talked about, and again use the Septic System Awareness Week as a hook to get people involved for a good time to get started, which is usually annually September of every year. And when you've completed your program and worked with your partners and gotten assistance from everybody, it's always good to write thank you letters and let everybody know that you appreciated their help on this. So now Valerie's going to talk about the PowerPoint.
I put together a PowerPoint that was designed to reach a variety of people, all age groups, all backgrounds, and it's just a brief explanation of why you should be concerned about your septic system. A lot of people go into home ownership in rural areas, perhaps not really understanding exactly how septic systems work, and these are questions that they need to ask when they're researching a property. An important person to consult about the septic system, perhaps for a particular property, is a realtor that you're working with. Important questions to ask are, if you have the septic system, how is it working? Are you getting water from a private well versus the public utilities? Sometimes there's not the understanding that you could be getting water from a public utility, but your only wastewater is going into a septic system that can't handle as much water as you're using, perhaps. As you walk the property, you're looking for clues as to what condition the septic system is in. You're looking at the pipes and installments around the properties. You may need a electrical hookup for pumps, and then also just look around for clear areas where your drainage field may be. A lot of people want to know what's inside the tank. Go ahead, and this helps them learn what different things are called, effluent, sludge, all the terminology. Septic tanks, how they work in the soil. It just sort of fills in with sort of the chemical processes that work through the septic fields. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, I think, so I think this is the best way to disseminate the information to the folks we're trying to reach. what's underground can show up above ground in a bad way. And then we have a word of caution here that this is not something you can fix on your own. There are gases and things you need to worry about. These are the things you need to look for within your home and around your home if you are experiencing a problem. A lot of people wouldn't know if they walked by a puddle in their yard that might mean their septic was overflowing. And it's important to know who your partners are. You have pumpers who will be glad to come out and help you with any problems, and your county health department also can give you some background about how to avoid problems with your septic tank. And get in the habit of calling out the pumper truck to keep the problems at bay. Know about your soil conditions in the area. This is Indiana. Soils are very gummy. And this is where we also start to introduce people to groups that will work to help them protect their water and all of our water. Be on the lookout around your neighborhood and work together because water quality applies to all of us. Thank you.
Well, the title of our video, and unfortunately due to technical difficulty, we can't show it to you, actually is, where does the poop go? And the concept behind the video is basically the concept that was outlined in the PowerPoint. We took all of those elements. We went to my property. I live in rural Noble County. Our team gathered together. We did the video. We talked about all of the things that you see. We talked about where the well is, where the septic system is, how you can look at the house from an internal perspective. And we did it on the basis of a homeowner who was selling their house. And so we had a realtor, a prospective client, and the homeowner all in the video talking about all of the things related to septic systems. Very simple concept, and I overlaid it with some music that you will hear shortly that played right into our septic song that is part of our presentation. Doing the video was fun. We ended up with some of the same technical difficulties with sound quality, video quality, and things like that. But my goal is, even after Laura and I fought through the process for 2 days of trying to get the video to work, that we're going to reformat it, clean it up, and make it available, because I do believe that it's something simple, conceptually. Just to give you one more piece of background, my wife was a realtor for many, many years. And she always was dismayed by the fact that people didn't understand what a septic system was all about and the long-term impacts that it had on water quality if you didn't understand their operation and how to maintain it. And now for the highlight of the presentation.
We know that septic systems are, they get a bad name. They're not the most comfortable to discuss. So we thought we'd add a bit of humor to the subject. So we
have to stand in front of it.
we wrote a song. Stand there far enough to be in the video. Over there. Your pipes are like a river. Every drain creates more flow, and the waste is just more water that must follow where it goes, pushing the waste that came before it. And it won't overflow. Makes each day a constant battle, just to flush the commode. And I will load my septic till the toilet overflows, like a stick